Hello horse racing fans and welcome to a very special video. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that I have been very obsessed with for a while. Winning streaks and horse racing. In every sport, there is always a great winning streak to talk about, whether it's the 49ers, the Oakland Athletics, or, in horse racing, the horses themselves. Every sport has a great winning streak, and horse racing is no exception. But no one has truly talked about the greatest winning streaks by racehorses in meticulous detail, especially on the internet, and that is what I hope to do. People do know of great winning streaks, like Citation and Cigar's 16-race winning streak, or Zenyatta's 19-race winning streak. However, there are so many winning streaks in horse racing done by racehorses that far succeeded that in the numbers that people don't know about, and that is what I will be talking about today. I will not be including trainers or jockeys. This is strictly for the racehorses. Which racehorses truly were able to win back-to-back the best? And, as a bit of a spoiler, none of those horses that I previously mentioned are going to be in this top 10. So without further ado, here are the 10 greatest winning streaks by racehorses. Cotico. Hailing from the Dominican Republic, he is by far the greatest horse ever to hail from the country, as well as being their highest earner, earning just under $250,000. He has a winning streak of 24 straight races, which puts him at number 10 for all-time greatest winning streaks in racing. He also is the only horse from the Dominican Republic to win the Clásico del Caribe, which is the Caribbean equivalent to the Breeders' Cup Classic. As well as that, he is a Dominican Republican Triple Crown winner, amongst many other things. The only races that he ever lost were his very first race, where he threw his rider, and his very last race. In between those two defeats, he racked up a 24-race winning streak, and just cracks in at number 10 on the list. Tight. This is where we begin to go below the iceberg. Hailing from Puerto Rico, something that you'll definitely be hearing a lot more later, Tight managed a winning streak of 25 straight races, as well as another smaller one of 17 straight races. There isn't much known about him, and most of what can be inferred from him comes from a single website, the Puerto Rico Racing Hall of Fame. However, what we do know is that there is a single photograph of him on this website, his final career statistics, as well as a few other interesting facts, such as the fact that he became the first horse in Puerto Rico to break $100,000, and he became the last horse in Puerto Rico to break 100 career victories, as he retired exactly when he reached 100 wins. Black Caviar. One of the more recent horses on this list, and one of the more unique ones, Black Caviar has a lot of interesting things about her, such as the fact that she's one of only 2 horses on this list to have ran in Australia and ran in the 2010s. As well as that, her strongest and most unique feature of all is the fact that she never lost a race. Her winning streak was done undefeated, 25 races with no losses. Something that only one other horse on here can claim to possess. As well as that, she was able to prove herself outside of her home country of Australia when she ran in the Diamond Jubilee Stakes against the world's best turf sprinters, and even that didn't keep her down. She stands on her own unique podium even amongst other horses on this list, thanks to her perfect record and her success internationally. Bachi, or Bachelor in English. Another Puerto Rican bred, Bachier's winning streak happened at the very beginning of his career, as he won all of his races at the ages of 2 and 3, as well as his first race at the age of 4, before his winning streak was snapped. At the end of it, he had won 32 straight races. Later in his career, he would have a smaller streak of 17 straight races, but he never quite recaptured the magic of his first 32 starts. Winx. The most recent horse on this list, and the only one that I've had the pleasure of watching as it unfolded, Winx is truly an amazing horse, as she managed a winning streak of 33 straight races, But she also managed other records, such as breaking the all-time record for most Grade 1s by any horse, with 25, as well as other historical achievements, including being the first horse ever to win 4 Cox Plates, outdoing Kingston Town's 3 Cox Plates. Although she will be shrouded in some mystery, as unlike Black Caviar, she never tested herself outside of Australia. In Australia, she was truly a beast and considered one of the greatest of all time, being inducted into the Australian Racing Hall of Fame before she even retired. Galgo Jr. Now that we're done with Winx, it's time for us to get down below the iceberg again as we talk about Puerto Rico once more, this time with the oldest Puerto Rican bred on this list, Galgo Jr. Galgo Jr. was a pioneer for Puerto Rican racing, as, being the oldest Puerto Rican bred on this list, a lot of his achievements were at one point world records. His winning streak of 39 straight races between the ages of 2 and 3 was at one point the second biggest winning streak in all of racing. As well as that, he at one point tied the world record for the most wins in a single season, with 30 wins from 31 starts at the age of 3. The only other horse to have ever done that at the time was Jurox, an Anglo-Arabian gelding from Australia who raced in the 1840s. As well as that, Galgo Jr. became the first horse in history to break 100 career victories, and he would have kept going too if it weren't for a tragic heart attack at the end of his 8-year-old season. By the end of his career, he had established 16 different track records, some of them being him just breaking and resetting his previous record, at distances from 1,000 meters to 1 mile and an eighth. He had won 136 times from 158 starts, and had won 39 straight races at his peak. Even now, he is still in the top 5 for most wins by a racehorse, and, right now, the 5th greatest winning streak in all of racing. Condido. As Galgo Jr. ran his final season of racing in 1936, a new 2-year-old stepped onto the scene, Condido. He only raced 7 times, but a year later, he would be on his way to making history and outdoing all of the records that Galgo Jr. had set. Firstly, at the age of 3, he won 38 times from 39 starts, outdoing Galgo Jr. and Jurox's record. As well as that, he outdid Galgo Jr.'s winning streak record with 43 straight races at his best. As well as that, Condido outdid Galgo Jr. for all-time victories, winning 152 times from 213 starts. However, even this isn't actually the most wins by a racehorse, as Yaucono and Carisbar would outdo Condido, but those two are not going to be on this list. Condido makes it on here thanks to his 43-race winning streak. At his best, he once raced 96 times and only lost 3 of them. If things had worked out a little differently, we could have seen a 96-race winning streak, but that's just a dream. For now, Condido is number 4 on the list with 43 straight wins. Kofresce. Originally named Frisky during his first 16 starts, with a new owner came a new name, and thus he donned the name Kofresce for the rest of his career, and it was a very long career at that. He raced a total of 138 times with 119 career victories, as well as many winning streaks, one that lasted 16 races, one that lasted 26 races, and at his best, a winning streak that lasted 49 straight races. It, for a while, was the second greatest winning streak in all of horse racing. And you might be wondering, who was number 1 during that time? I did mention offhandedly that horses like Condido, Galgo Jr., and most recently Kofresce held the number 2 spot. Well, who was number 1 during this time? Well, it goes all the way back to the 1800s. Kinkchem. Meaning my precious or my treasure in Hungarian, she has a lot of unique distinctions from any other horse on this list. She is the only European horse on this list, and she is also one of only 2 horses on this list to have been undefeated. But unlike Black Caviar, she didn't just win 25 races, she won more than double that, 54 wins from 54 starts. Although you can make the argument that some of her races were basically handed to her, as 15 of her career starts were in either match races or walkovers, she still also managed major victories in races such as the Grossprijs van Baden, the Grand Prix de Deauville, the Hungarian 2000 and 1000 Guineas, as well as the Goodwood Cup. Her influence still lives on in Hungary, nearly 150 years after she ran her last race. Kincsembe Park, the biggest racetrack in all of Hungary, is named after her, which would be the equivalent of the biggest racetrack in the United States being named after, like, Secretariat or Man o' War. As well as that, in 2017, she even got her own motion picture in Hungary, Kincsembe Bet on Revenge. And for nearly 75 years, she held the record for the greatest winning streak of all time, and still to this day holds the greatest unbeaten winning streak of all time. But, nearly 75 years later, there was one horse who outdid her. Camarero. Originally named Sobrecito, he was renamed to Camarero to honor his mother, Camarera, and he would go on to be the greatest horse ever to come out of Puerto Rico. He was truly the Seabiscuit of Puerto Rico, being the exact kind of horse Puerto Rico needed to try and increase popularity for racing. His winning streak got many people that didn't even know anything about racing to join, as attendances for his races increased by 25%, and as his winning streak continued, they went up to a whopping 64%. Betting pools at the start of his career were only at about $12,000. By the end of his career, the betting pools would reach up to $69,000, all because of this little horse, as he went on his quest to try and dethrone Kincsembe and have the greatest winning streak in all of horse racing. And that is exactly what he would do, crossing the finish line with 54 straight races. But he wasn't done. In August, less than 3 weeks after his victory in July, he won his 55th straight race, and then 10 days later, he won his 56th. Although he tasted defeat only 9 days later, those wins would truly have all of Puerto Rico celebrating, as their little horse took the world record, and it would never be equaled again. No horse has ever come even close to matching the great Camarero. He still lives on today in Puerto Rico, with statues erected in his honor, the entire racetrack of El Comandante being renamed to Hippodromo Camarero to honor this great horse, and him being ranked amongst the 30 most outstanding Puerto Rican athletes of the 20th century. You don't get any better than Camarero at winning races. And that concludes the 10 greatest winning streaks in horse racing. I hope you learned something new today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Comment down if I should do other kinds of videos like this. See you guys next time.